The old university building stood shrouded in shadow, a brooding monolith against the twilight sky. Ivy, thick and ancient, clawed at its walls like grasping hands. Among the rows of identical windows, one stood out, a splash of vibrant blue in the gathering gloom. The Cerulean door, they called it. A door that was never used, always locked, leading to a room perpetually sealed. It hummed with an unspoken energy, a silent beacon in the deepening darkness. I couldn't tear my eyes away, drawn to its unsettling allure. My footsteps echoed on the deserted path, each one a drumbeat of apprehension in the stillness. The air grew colder as I approached, a tangible chill that seeped into my bones. What secrets did that door conceal? What mysteries lay dormant behind its painted surface? I reached out, hesitant, my fingers brushing against the cool, smooth wood. A shiver ran through me, a jolt of warning. But curiosity, like a siren's call, drowned out the voice of reason. I had to know what lay beyond. The university whispered about the Cerulean door, fragments of forgotten stories, hushed rumors exchanged in the library stacks. A tragic accident, they murmured, a forbidden experiment, a life abruptly cut short. I tried to ignore the whispers, to focus on my studies, but the door had woven its way into my thoughts. It haunted my dreams, a splash of blue against a canvas of fear. The more I learned, the more I realized how little anyone actually knew. Professor Eldridge, my advisor, dismissed the stories as mere superstition. Yet a flicker of unease crossed his face when I pressed him for details. His eyes, usually warm and inviting, turned cold, guarded. What was he hiding? Driven by a need to know, I began to research the building's history. Old blueprints, faded photographs, and yellowed newspaper clippings painted a picture of a time long past. A time when the Cerulean door was not sealed, when the room beyond pulsed with life. Professor Eldridge was a renowned historian specializing in the university's long and storied past. He was also charismatic, intelligent, and undeniably attractive. Our conversations, once purely academic, began to take on a different tone. I found myself drawn to him, to the way his eyes lit up when he spoke about his research, to the subtle touch of his hand on mine as he passed me a book. He was forbidden territory, a line I knew I shouldn't cross, but the pull was too strong to resist. His knowledge of the Cerulean door, however, remained frustratingly vague. He deflected my questions with practiced ease, steering the conversation towards safer topics. His evasiveness only fueled my suspicions. What was he so determined to hide? One evening, as we lingered in his office, the setting sun casting long shadows across the room, I decided to confront him. "What do you know about the Cerulean door?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Professor Eldridge's reaction was instantaneous. He stiffened, his face draining of color. "Why do you ask?" he countered, his voice uncharacteristically sharp. "It's nothing but a collection of old rumors, hardly worth our attention." His denial was too quick, too rehearsed. The shadows in the room seemed to deepen, mirroring the growing unease in my stomach. My instincts screamed at me to back down, that I was treading on dangerous ground. "But you haven't denied knowing anything," I pressed, my voice trembling slightly. "Why is everyone so afraid to talk about it?" The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Eldridge's gaze darted to the door, his fingers drumming nervously on his desk. Finally he sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not my place to say," he muttered, his voice low and strained. "Some things are best left buried." His words did little to quell my curiosity. If anything, they only ignited it further. My obsession with the Cerulean door grew, consuming my thoughts. I spent countless hours in the library, poring over old documents, searching for any scrap of information that could shed light on its secrets. I began to notice strange occurrences, unsettling incidents that heightened my sense of unease. Footsteps echoing behind me in the empty hallways, the feeling of being watched from the shadows. Was it my imagination? Or was something more sinister at play? One evening, as I left the library late at night, I could have sworn I saw a figure standing at the end of the corridor, shrouded in darkness. It vanished before I could get a closer look, leaving behind only a lingering chill and the echo of retreating footsteps. Fear gnawed at the edges of my mind, but it was intertwined with a perverse sense of excitement. I was venturing deeper into a mystery that no one else dared to unravel, drawn inexorably towards the unknown. As I delved deeper into the mystery of the Cerulean door, I found myself drawn closer to Professor Eldridge. He was the only one who seemed to understand my fascination, even if he refused to share what he knew. Our late-night conversations became more frequent, more intense. We spoke in hushed tones, as if afraid of being overheard. He shared his knowledge of the university's past, his voice filled with a mixture of reverence and dread. I couldn't deny the attraction between us any longer. It was a dangerous game we were playing, a dance on the edge of a knife. But the thrill of the unknown, the allure of the forbidden, only fueled our desire. One night, as we stood in his office, the Cerulean door a silent presence in our minds, Eldridge turned to me, his eyes filled with a mixture of longing and fear. "Don't go looking for answers you're not prepared to find," he whispered, his voice barely audible. His words echoed in my ears long after I left his office. What did he know? What was he so afraid of? My curiosity, once a flickering flame, now raged like a wildfire. The strange occurrences continued, escalating in frequency and intensity. Objects moved in my dorm room, whispers followed me through the hallways, and the feeling of being watched intensified. I was living in a perpetual state of unease, my nerves stretched taut. One evening I returned to my room to find it ransacked. Drawers were pulled open, their contents strewn across the floor, and my research materials were scattered everywhere. It was a clear message: stop digging. Fear threatened to consume me, but it was outweighed by a burning need for answers. Someone was trying to scare me, to silence me, but why? What were they so desperate to protect? Driven by a combination of fear and determination, I decided to confide in Professor Eldridge. He had been right to warn me, to caution me against pursuing the truth. But it was too late for turning back now. I found him in his office, surrounded by stacks of books, his face etched with worry. As I recounted the events of the past few days, his expression shifted from concern to alarm. "You shouldn't have gone looking for answers," he said, his voice laced with a mixture of anger and fear. "You've put yourself in danger, do you understand?" I had never seen him like this, so agitated, so unhinged. "But why?" I pleaded, my voice trembling. "What's so dangerous about the Cerulean door?" Eldridge hesitated, his gaze fixed on a point somewhere beyond me. Then, taking a deep breath, he began to speak, his words slow and deliberate. The room seemed to shrink around me as Professor Eldridge spoke, his words weaving a chilling tale. The Cerulean door, he explained, was not just a door. It was a portal, a gateway to something ancient and powerful, something that defied explanation. The room beyond, he revealed, had been the site of a series of forbidden experiments conducted by a group of professors decades ago. They had sought to harness the power that lay dormant within the university's walls, to tap into a source of knowledge beyond human comprehension. But their hubris had disastrous consequences. The experiments had unleashed a force they couldn't control, a darkness that consumed everything in its path. The Cerulean door was sealed, the room quarantined, and the incident was erased from the university's history. Eldridge's eyes were filled with a mixture of guilt and terror as he spoke. He had been a student at the time, a witness to the horrors that had unfolded. The events had haunted him ever since, a dark secret he had sworn never to reveal. My mind reeled from the revelations, struggling to grasp the enormity of what I had uncovered. The university, once a place of learning and enlightenment, now seemed like a breeding ground for something sinister, something that lurked just beneath the surface. But there was one piece of the puzzle that didn't fit. If the Cerulean door was sealed, how had I been experiencing these strange occurrences? Who or what was responsible? As I looked at Professor Eldridge, his face pale and drawn, a chilling realization washed over me. He wasn't just a witness to the events of the past, he was an active participant. He had been the one behind the strange happenings, the whispers, the feeling of being watched. "You never stopped, did you?" I whispered, my voice trembling with a mixture of fear and betrayal. "You continued the experiments, didn't you?" Eldridge's face contorted in a mixture of rage and despair. He lunged towards me, his fingers grasping at my arm. "Don't you see?" he hissed, his voice laced with desperation. "We have to understand it, to control it. It's the key to unlocking the true potential of the human mind." I recoiled from his touch, his words confirming my worst fears. He was consumed by the same obsession that had destroyed the professors before him, blinded by the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. In that moment, I saw the true face of the man I had been drawn to. the darkness that lurked beneath his charming facade. He was a danger to himself and everyone around him, driven mad by the secrets he sought to uncover. As I turned to flee, a wave of dizziness washed over me. The room spun, the walls closing in, and I collapsed to the floor, my vision fading to black. The last thing I saw was Professor Eldridge's face, contorted in a mixture of triumph and despair, as he reached for the cerulean door. The door that was no longer sealed. The door that had been opened.